continue to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Welcome to another episode of Talk Smart with
Pugh.
I'm McCart. That's Joe Pugh. I'm Andrew McCart. This is episode 15. 15 shows we've done now, Joe. You getting bored yet?
I'm not, mate. As long as the fights keep coming, I'm not getting bored. As long as we've got something to talk about on a Sunday, I'm more than happy to be here.
I was making bored of me, mate, to be honest.
No, never, mate.
Well, let's talk about it then. Let's just jump straight into the deep end, man. Obviously, Canelo fought last night. We'll leave that to the end. But I do want to talk about, we spoke briefly on it last night because you were at the show last night. Jai Opetaia against Jordan Thompson. Wow. Listen, I'll share my thoughts on what I saw on the TV, but you were there last night, man. How impressive was Opetaia last night?
Oh, wow. Like, you see me smile now because it was kind of like, certainly from a UK standpoint, a star-making performance. Like, I asked Eddie and I asked Jai Opetaia, I asked people ringside, have the boxing world been sleeping on this guy? Because realistically, he wasn't the most well-known world champion, which is a shame because he's not just a world champion, he's a Ring Magazine champion, beat the Lineal champion. Do you know what I mean? So he's a phenomenal talent, but I think what happened with the jaw kind of stinted his progress and his activity because of it. He come off a fantastic win against Myris Brady, who also was there last night. But Jordan Thompson, it was a bit of an unknown fight because Jordan Thompson never been in that level before, but we know the power he possesses. We know how big he is for that weight. But from round one, it was just relentless from Jai Opetaia. Every shot he threw had meaning, had power to it. He didn't waste anything. He was so smart. He tucked unders to the body well. He was landing with that left hand, a little bit like Zhang was with Joe Joyce last week. It was a beautiful boxing performance. It could have even been stopped a little bit earlier, maybe, but it was a great stoppage at the end. Hopefully Jordan Thompson comes again. I know he was gutted after the fight. Eddie said straight to heavyweight. I don't blame him because he's so big. But yeah, Andy, what did you make on the telly?
Listen, I enjoyed it, man. Again, when you talk about sleeping on Jai Opetaia, I'll admit it. I slept on him. Apart from, I didn't watch the Myris Brady fight. I saw the result. So for me personally, I knew of him. I knew he was a hard hitter. But you look, apart from the Brady's fight, you go down his record. He hasn't really fought many people. Do you know what I mean? There was loads of 7-2 records and 10-4 records. So Brady's fight was his first initial step up, and he took it with both hands and won a unanimous decision. So other than being slept on, yes, I would probably think, because I slept on him, I'm going to be honest with you, and I didn't know he was that good from what I saw last night. I was expecting Jordan Thompson to maybe, like you said, he's got the height, the reach, the power. I was thinking maybe this could be a really, really tasty fight. But it wasn't a tasty fight. It was a nasty fight in terms of the way Opetaia went through his business. It was just an absolute phenomenal performance, and I will not be sleeping on this guy. I'll be watching him closely. The cruiserweight division's always been kind of like that division. It's always been that division that isn't talked about as much as sort of the other divisions. So, he's a monster. Reminds me of like a little bit of a Evander Holyfield, the way he comes forward, and every shot's got meaning behind it. Do you know what I mean? There's no. Yeah, he just reminds me of Holyfield. You said he reminds you of Bivol because the technicalities, the way he throws his shots. So, I mean, he's just an absolute monster. And I think for Jordan Thompson, maybe it was a step too soon. I think maybe that was just a step up too soon in his career. But listen, when these opportunities come, I don't begrudge fighters taking these opportunities. You fighting for a world title, you get the opportunity to fight for a world title, take it. You win, lose or draw, your stock rises. Do you know what I mean? It depends on, but I just think with Jordan Thompson last night, he stepped in with probably it's going to go down as probably one of the best cruiserweights and he's going to be talked about probably amongst the guys like Evander Holyfield and Usyk in terms of the cruiserweight division in time. He's only 28 years old. I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, he can get some unification fights, whether that be against like a Chris Billum-Smith or, do you know,
I'd love that.
one of these guys. Maybe they revisit the Reactor fight, because that's a fight I would like to see. Do you know what I mean? So maybe we can revisit that fight. Do you know what I mean? There's obviously Lawrence Okoli there. I don't know what he's doing. Badou Jack, is he WBC champion? I think Badou Jack.
Yeah.
So maybe get unification with these fights. There's some good fights there in that division. Like I said, we've got quite a few cruiserweights here in the UK that he can probably. What did he say in your interview, Joe? That he came here for respect. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he come here to put respect on him and Australia's name, and he wants to go back. He wants to. Sorry, 1 second, mate. Yes. You there, mate?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, mate. Don't know what happened there. Yeah, he come here respecting. He wants to take that belt home. He wants to become a massive star in Australia. He wants to fill his home stadium, but he will fight anyone, and that's what I get from him. He doesn't care. And what I like about Joe Opetaia, and what I like about this cruiserweight division, which we haven't had since Usyk, we haven't had a dominant force. That the belts have been kind of a little bit passed around a little bit. So obviously, if you just look at the lineage of the WBO title, for example, since Usyk, it was vacant. Lawrence Okoli, now Chris Billum-Smith, and then McCart lost to Badou Jack. Bradis lost to Opetaia. So I think Opetaia now has got the chance to become that dominant force. And he's not the biggest cruiserweight. He's a cruiserweight. That's what it is. He's not someone that's going to be moving up to heavyweight. He may do at the end of his career, but he don't need to, like Jordan Thompson does. So he can stay there and he can rule, which I really like. Yeah, he's genuinely up for anyone. I'd like to see the Billum-Smith fight. I spoke to Billum-Smith after. He's more than up for that fight. It looks like Opetaia might have to fight Bradis because he's IBF mandatory, and because he hasn't fought in over a year, the IBF will call that mandatory. And then CBS is probably locked up with having to fight Lawrence Okoli again. I think we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. But I said, realistically, if you fight maybe December, January, take care of what you've got to take care of. That sets up perfectly for stadium season. You could go to Bournemouth in maybe a May or a June, sell out the Bournemouth Vitality Stadium again, or go to Australia. There's so much options for Joe Opetaia, and as I say, I'm really excited for him. I'm really looking forward to see how his career plays out. And just on a separate note, I think if I'm Tyson Fury, I'm going to be wanting to pay him a lot of money to come in as sparring for Oleksandr Usyk.
I was just going to say that. I mean, the perfect sparring, yeah, the 100%, same height, southpaw. I was just literally, you read my mind there, mate. I was literally going to say that was going to be my next point. Yeah, 100% agree. You're going Tyson Fury, once he gets through Ngannou, bringing Jai Opetaia for some sparring, southpaw, 6'2", 6'3". Ideal sparring. I mean, obviously they're two different fighters in terms of the way they fight. Usyk's more of that sort of elusiveness, and Jai Opetaia's that come forward, head off type. But listen, that's probably the closest you're going to get in terms of elite level southpaw sparring for Usyk. Yeah, you read my mind there, young man. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
There you go. Really think.
Exactly, mate. The Chris Billum-Smith fight as well, because I think Chris Billum-Smith is one of them fighters that if you meet him with fire, he's going to fire back with fire. Do you know what I mean? If you come at him, he's going to fire with fire. Do you know what I mean? He's that type of fighter, and that's an exciting fight for this cruiserweight division. But in terms of Jai Opetaia, if he does go up to heavyweight as well, and later on in his career, like once he becomes undisputed, if you become undisputed at weight, 9 times out of 10, you've seen champions either go up in weight and vacate all the belts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's only really Canelo that stuck around at 168. Do you know what I mean? And kept all the belts and fighting everybody there. But I think once he can step up to heavyweight. That's an old school heavyweight. You look back in the 60s and 70s, heavyweights weren't 6'7" and 6'8", 6'9".
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's Muhammad Ali's, Ernie Schaefer's, Jack Johnson's, all these guys, Mike Tyson's. Do Do you know what I mean? All these guys were 6'3", 6'2". Mike Tyson's it was 5'11", so he'll be a throwback heavyweight if he steps up there and comes in at that 16, 17 stone mark, front foot, and just barrels people over. And I'm very excited. Like, just going on what we said earlier, that I slept on that man, and I feel bad for doing it, man, because I didn't think he was that good, and I will be keeping a close eye on him from now on, because I think he is exciting, and he's definitely one to watch. And it's going to be, but just a wee touch on a cruiserweight that we've got that I'm excited about as well, Joe, and he was fighting on the bill last night with Jeff Clark. He is phenomenal as well. He's very, very good. Small in stature, but stocky. Come forward. Slick skills on the inside. Inside work is phenomenal. I really, really like Chef Clark as well. And the way this cruiserweight division is panning out, I think opportunities will be there for him as well in the next 3 or 4 fights.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Chef since he made his pro debut. Well, before that, even when he was on Team G. But I think he will just adapt to levels. I think there's a lot more levels that we've seen in him. He fought Vasyl Duka last night, who Jordan Thompson only fought 2 fights prior to this world title opportunity. And arguably, he done a better job. He was more comfortable, and he was very, very comfortable in there. I would have liked to have seen him kind of make a statement and a knockout, because Vasyl Duka just doesn't get stopped. I think he's only been stopped once, and it was years ago. He's a really good measuring stick, a really good seasoned cruiserweight who you put in there with your top boys who you wanted to test. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Chef Clark, I think he's mandatory for the British. So yeah, and he wants to do it the traditional, but he's not the youngest, so I think he wants to do it fast. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Chef Clark's career plays out, because I think he can get to those levels of the Okolis, the Chris Billam-Smiths, the Riakpors relatively quick. He can catch up with those guys.
I agree. In the cruiserweight division, you mentioned Riakpor, Billam-Smith, the Okolis, Badu Jacks, Jaya Opetaia, even Jordan Thompson, if he sticks around, man, this isn't the end of him. I just think that maybe it was a step too far too soon. That was all. You know what I mean? He's still learning. He went from that white collar background, I believe, and he stepped. Yeah. So it was just a step too far too soon. But he showed that he's got the bravery, he's got the heart. It's just now stepping back a little bit. Dust yourself off, take them fights again. You've been in there with the top guys. You know what it feels like now. So, well done to him. Great bravery on his part, but I just think it was a step too far too soon. But when these opportunities, I don't begrudge him taking this opportunity. I mean, somebody throws it headlining for a world title in London. What you're going to say no to it? And that you might not get the opportunity again. So who knows? So well done to Jordan Thompson. I mean, he's probably going to get a lot of flack this morning for the way he performed. But listen, Jaya Opetaia is something special, so you can't take anything from him. There was another big fight last night, Joe. I don't know if you stayed up for it. I know you like to go to clubs and stuff, brother. But did you watch the Canelo fight last night against Charlo?
I've watched most of it this morning, I will say. Yeah, I didn't watch it last night, but it's been a long week. But yeah, Canelo, Charlo, obviously it was a smaller brother. I'll let you start, mate.
Yeah, well, listen, I watched it this morning. Canelo for me was just on it last night. He was stalking Charlo. For me, maybe I was a little bit disappointed in the way Charlo came into the fight, started the fight. And yeah, I mean, the first round was cagey. There wasn't many punches thrown from either fighter, but I just think, did Charlo give him too much respect? Did the occasion get to Charlo? Was it the weight? Did Charlo feel his power early on and think, oh my goodness, I've never been in one like this, and try to not engage as much to try and open up than let Canelo hit him? It was just a funny one from Charlo. I expected maybe a little bit more. I thought that it would catch. I sort of made the prediction that Canelo would win by unanimous decision. If not, he would stop him in the rounds 11 and 12. But like I say, Canelo. He was just stalking Charlo. He was just constantly cutting off the ring. And as Charlo was trying to sort of get that little respite, Canelo was there. So for the 3 minutes of every single round, Charlo was needing to be on it and keep his mind switched on, which tires you as well, the mental game in there. So, and then obviously he got the knockdown, a wee bit of delayed reaction, overhand right from Canelo, beautiful shot. And as he pulled back through the right uppercut, which glanced Charlo, and if that landed flush, then maybe we would have got the knockout. But he got the knockdown, got the job done. And yeah, he said in the post-fight press conference, Canelo, that he's back. So whatever that means, he's back.
Yeah, look, I think the boxing community kind of maybe were thinking that Canelo was on the slide. He might not be the fighter that he once was, but to be 90 to 95% of the fighter he once was, he's probably still better than maybe every fighter on the world around his weight division. From what I picked up on last night, I think it was in the same way as when he fought the likes of Callum Smith. It was he asserted his authority fast, and he didn't let him breathe. Charlo, obviously, at the start, I think he could have done more, but I think what Canelo does is the small things that just puts you on the back foot, and before you know it, you're 6 rounds down against Canelo. Yeah, so I think from what he said in the post-fight press conference, and I've seen that when he says he's back, I think it is strap season for him, and he is still undisputed champion. It was undisputed versus undisputed, 2 fighters last night. Charlo is still undisputed, I believe.
He's not.
So
I think Charlo's been stripped of that as soon as he stepped in the ring. I think the WBO stripped him and has now made Tim super champion, I believe, or along them lines. Now Tim Tszyu's now the champion, I think, because that's been going on for 2 years with the WBO. So I think now he's been stripped. He's not undisputed anymore at 154 because now Tim Tszyu has been elevated. I think I've read that somewhere as well, and that's what I heard before the fight as well. So I'll need to double check on that, but that's what I think that's happened.
Yeah, but I'm assuming Charlo he might go to 160. I don't know if he'll that super middle. He probably will go up. Yeah, but there's so many fights out there for him. But Canelo, the fight hopefully we'll see his maybe big brother, David Benavidez. We know he looks like he'll be fighting Andrade. But yeah, big fights now, please, because if that 3-fight deal is true, which we believe it is with PBC, then they've got 2 fights left to make the biggest fights for Canelo.
I agree. Maybe Big Brother, but that doesn't excite me. The Big Brother fight, it doesn't excite me. There's only 2 fights that excite me. It is Benavidez. Because when you get 2 Mexicans going at it, now you can stereotype this all you want, but Barrera Morales come to mind. When you've got 2 Mexicans fighting under that Mexican flag, it's all about pride. Do you know what I mean? And it's all about giving the Mexican fans, the Mexican public, the country of Mexico a war. And that just excites me. I'm not even Mexican and I get excited about that. But Benavidez and Canelo excites me. I think that's a fight that's been talked about for so long now. And now we spoke about this on numerous occasions on this podcast, Joe. This year has been fantastic in terms of fights. Garcia, Tank Davis, with Spence Crawford. We've just literally had the announcement of Tyson Fury and Usyk being signed. So we'll touch on that. That has been signed. All going well with Ngannou. Hopefully we get that maybe in that 23rd of December. But we're getting these fights that we've been craving for. It's taken time. There's a lot of negotiations, a lot of talking points, and we're here every Sunday talking about it. But we're getting the fights made. Now, PBC seems to be the organization right now because they've made Spence Crawford, they've made Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. If anyone can get Canelo Benavidez, it's them. And I think that's the fight that fans want, the networks want, we want as media, we want it. And that excites me. And if they've got one more fight left at PBC, I wouldn't mind seeing a Crawford fight. I wouldn't mind seeing it. And I'll tell you why. Listen. Crawford, right? He's dominated everywhere, lightweight, light welterweight. I think I've seen him hurt twice. And it was against Gamboa. I think Gamboa rocked him, but then seconds later, he's knocked Gamboa out. Same as, was it Kalamaskis or something like that? He hurt him, but then again, seconds later, knocked him out. So I want to see Terence Crawford go through a little bit of adversity. I want to see him hurt. I want to see him pushed back. I don't want to see him have his own way because you look at every fight he's been in almost. He's been dominant. He's made it look easy, nearly every fight. Do you know what I mean? And maybe 3 weight divisions is ridiculous to jump up to try and face an undisputed champion like Canelo. It is. I know it is. I'm not sitting here and saying it isn't, but it just excites me because I think I've been around Canelo and Crawford. Height-wise, they're exactly the same. just like Canelo's a little bit more thicker. Do you know what I mean? And I think Crawford, I'm sure he can put a little bit of beef, and he's got a wrestling background as well, so he knows how to get in rough and rugged on the inside. And it's pound for pound number 1 and number 2, arguably, if you want to say it. If Inouye's still in number 2, so you got 2 pound for pound again, 2 pound for pound fighters going at it. Now, I'll make the case for Crawford. You could probably make the case against Crawford if you want, but I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. Crawford wants it.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't watch that fight. I wouldn't be excited about it, but I do think there are weight divisions for a reason, and I think for someone who was lightweight champion and was so dominant there, for someone who's super middleweight undisputed champion, I know he's at welterweight now, but that is his weight that he's made, and I don't know. I just think we've seen it so many times. When a good little guy goes up against a good bigger guy, there's usually only one outcome. When you look at Mikey Garcia, when he stepped up to fight Errol Spence, even when you look at, I know this is slightly different because it was generational talents, but even when you look at Kell Brook going up to fight Golovkin, it's always the same outcome. And don't get me wrong, I love Terence Crawford and I love Canelo. I think it's a bit too much for Terence Crawford because Canelo won't come down now. He's at that age now where he's not going to be coming down. I don't think it'd be a catch rate. I think if it does happen, it will be super middle. And you have to respect Terence Crawford for trying to attempt that, because if he did pull off that feat, then it would be probably the greatest feat that any professional boxer has probably ever done. And I know it's a big, big claim there, but yeah, it would be absolutely huge. But I don't know. I can't get too excited about it just yet because I say history tells us that there's only one winner there.
What I'll say, though, you mentioned Mikey Garcia. You mentioned Kell Brook stepping up. But we're talking about Terence Crawford here. He is...
I know.
We're talking about somebody that is probably going to be talked about amongst the Floyd Mayweathers, amongst the Sugar Ray Leonards, Sugar Ray Robinsons. He's going to be talked about with these guys when his career comes to an end. That's the type of fighter we're talking about. Now, I agree with you. There's a weight divisions for a reason. But I again, it's just... But who, Canelo? Does you fight Bivol again? It's like you've got to get these fights made. And who for Crawford? He goes up to 154. What excites you more? Who do you want to see Crawford fight? Who do you want to see Canelo fight? I mean, you can argue Benavidez. You can argue maybe the Charlo fight for Crawford. Do you know what I mean? You can argue that case. But what that doesn't that when you talk about Canelo and Crawford fighting each other and the ridiculous of that, even the thought process of that excites me. Because I think that Crawford's got the skill set to stay away from Canelo. But can he stay away from Canelo for 12 rounds? That's the question. Does Canelo hurt him? He stalks him. Canelo, I don't think Crawford will be able to hurt Canelo. That's what I don't think he'll be able to. I don't think Canelo's been hurt, has he? I don't think I've ever seen him hurt. So it's one of them ones. It just excites me. I think maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm a little bit excited because boxing's been good this year, and maybe I'm maybe I'm just maybe a little bit too excited. But man, imagine if that happened, I'll be buzzing. But talking about fights that have been made, I'm doing a hard segue here.
There you go.
This week, Joe, we spoke about it. We've spoke about numerous, again, number of times on this podcast. Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk, undisputed. There can only be one. Fingers crossed it happens. Well, if it happens this year, I'll be excited, but I can't see it happening this year.
No,
I think it'll be maybe end of January, February time. But listen, finally we get to see it. We're going to see it, and I'm just going to ramble on because I'm excited about it again. So yeah, when you heard the news, what was your reaction to it, Joe?
Is it actually signed? Is it actually happening? Will it happen? Do I get excited until I actually see them in the ring? But that's probably the cynicalist in me, just because we've been promised it so many times. But yeah. From what I'm hearing, from what we've heard, from what it looks like, it seems like it's all very, very good. It's all very, very above board, and it looks like we're going to see it happen. But it's sometime between the 23rd of December this year and the end of March next year. Riyadh season, which opens with Fury and Ngannou. I think it'd only be fitting if it closed with Fury Usyk. And then I suddenly thought, oh God, is Ngannou going to knock him out? Which I never thought before, just because it's just boxing, isn't it? But yeah, hopefully the stars have aligned and we will get it.
The only good thing about even if Ngannou does knock Tyson Fury out, I don't think his WBC belt's on the line, so we still get to see the undisputed fight, mate. So that's a positive there, but I can't see Ngannou doing that to Tyson Fury. But like, crazy things have happened. I must admit, crazy things have happened. I'll put this to you though, Joe. We spoke about it as well, that if anyone can get these big fight mates, it's going to be Saudi Arabia. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be.
Yeah.
It has to be Saudi Arabia that can put them on, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And if they can get Usyk and Fury made, do you think we can? Do you think there's hope? And do you think we'll get to see Joshua Wilder now? Do you think that'll be one of them the next fight that will be made?
Look, I spoke to Eddie Hearn yesterday, and he said that there's potential possibilities of either Vegas or Qatar for Wilder Joshua. But I just think you look down any ranking, so we'll just go for BoxRec, for example, because it's seen as the non-biased one, and obviously there's no governing bodies involved in that. But who does Joshua fight if it's not Wilder? Philip Hrgović, that's it. Realistically,
Zhang.
next.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah, Zhang. But again, Hrgović and Zhang is kind of like, would you fight him? Because they're both in line for the world title. I know Anthony Joshua brings massive commercial value, but he doesn't bring a world title. And Hrgović has been pursuing that IBF for a very, very long time. Zhang will now be in pursuit of that WBO. And realistically, we know as soon as the undisputed fight happens, touch wood, the belts will fragment. So who does he fight? Like, seriously go down the rankings, because everyone's tied up now. Even the likes of your mate, Martin Bakoli, he's got a fight now in Saudi Arabia. So, it's got to happen, in my opinion.
Again, I totally agree with you, young man. I do. And I think, like I said, I'm going to say it again. If anyone can get these fights made, it's Saudi Arabia. I really do think they're really, really wanting to stamp their authority on this boxing game. Sport in general, you just see what they're doing with footballers. You know what I mean? Sport in general, the golf, football, boxing, they're doing amazing things. So, yeah, I'm excited. Like, again, I want to be cynical like you until they step foot in that ring and I get a date, I get a venue, I get a press conference, then I can start getting a little bit more excited. But when you've got everybody putting out on Instagram, and like you've got Turkala, His Excellency posting about it, you've got Tyson Fury's posting about it, you've got Frank Warren, Queensberry, Top Rank, you've got all these people posting about this fight being made and signed. Obviously, no date has been made or anything like that. But listen, it's exciting times ahead, and I just think that boxing right now, if this fight happens in 2023, if it does happen on December 23rd, then I can say 2023 for me has been probably one of the best years in boxing that I can remember for a long, long, long time. And but like I say, I doubt it will happen. But exciting times ahead, young man. Being honest with you, it's going to be good. I believe it's happening. I really do.
Yeah, and just to finish up on that, then I think if it did happen in 2023, I think 2024 will probably be one of the worst years for boxing, because where is there to go? Where is there to go after that? After all these fights this year, obviously, probably will be a rematch if we're being honest, whatever way it goes. But yeah, 2023 certainly delivered, and it's kind of under the radar delivered. It's not been like a barrage of great fights. It's been like, okay. Oh, we got Tank versus Garcia. Fast forward a couple months. Oh, there you go. Spence Crawford. Fights that we've only been waiting for about 5 years. So, it's hopefully we get it. But if I could count the times we've said hopefully on this podcast, then, yeah, that'd make a podcast of its own, Andy.
Definitely. And if we had £1 for every time we said these fights were going to happen and they didn't happen, we'd be millionaires as well, mate. So
we probably afford to put on that fight.
Yeah, we could put it on exactly that. Joe, thank you so much as always. Been a pleasure talking to you, young man. Talk Smart, Pure McCart will be out 7 p.m. tonight and all the major platforms. Joe, is that right?
All the platforms, video, audio, you name it. Talk Smart, Pure McCart, Sunday night. You know it's there, baby.
You know it's there, baby. Listen, Joe, enjoy next week. Warrington Wood. I was meant to do it, but unfortunately I had a family thing I need to attend to. So you enjoy it.
Thanks for passing that one to me, mate. Thanks for passing that one to me. That's proper.
You owe me one then, mate. You owe me one. And listen, that's
do.
maybe a good fight to talk about next Sunday. So I'll see you then, my brother.
See you then, mate. See you then.
Choose to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,